So that's what we did. And every time I look and I think, how in the world can you make a lesson out of this stuff? But I think it's the same everywhere. The name of the lesson is be faithful in adversity. And it is Nehemiah 6:1-19. But the thing is, what is faithful and what is adversity? And so I think it goes in everything we do all the time. And you look, and I was just thinking of the preaching this morning, and it's you start with whatever you start with, and you're all into it. I mean, that's all you have, and then something comes along to shake you, and how do you stay focused in that? And I think it's everything. Everything I know that's worthwhile, that happens. How do you stay focused in it? And I would say our Christian walk. Well, I think all of us would say that has waxed and waned through our life. There's a time that it's been great, and times it's not so much, and times that it's great again, and times not so much. Well, why is that? Why does it seem like everything good, everything great, everything we love? Why can't we just stay focused on it?
Well, when you're younger, there's so many things that are happening, like the ones with children. It's hard for a young mother to be focused on that when she has little children running around. She's having to focus on them. And daddies are working so hard. And that just makes a big difference. When you get older, you do have more time, and if you choose,
So just how much
you
older?
can be closer.
It's just a matter of conditioning. I don't think our brains are conditioned to stay focused on any one thing. It doesn't matter what it is. It's not conditioned to do that.
Right.
We're not conditioned to focus. We talk about children's
ADD.
Inability to stay on focus for any period of time. It doesn't get much better as adults unless we condition our brains to do that. You see it in students all the time. Well, how many times you sit in class, even in church, and after the first minute or two, it's like, let's see, what are we going to have for lunch today? What are we going to do after church? Our brains just go right off because we're not conditioned to focus.
We focus on what is our main priority.
Or just let it roam.
Yeah.
That's what most of us do, is let it roam.
Is it partly then because animals are focused? I mean, we talk about our animal nature and all. Animals are focused on living, going. Why aren't we focused then? Why aren't we born to focus?
You don't think there's distractions?
We have free will, so we can choose to,
Yeah.
our thoughts choose to go in any direction that they want to. Animals are, it's ingrained in them that what am I going to eat? I'm going to go eat. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do that. They don't generally have a whole lot of choices in their life. They go this way or not. They can, I guess, run from danger if they need to, but they really don't have a choice as, well, I'm going to think about this today, or they're just programmed to eat, sleep, reproduce. That's about it.
And she mentioned distractions. So where would Satan fit into all that then?
Right smack dab in the middle. Right?
Yeah,
It's that sin
I've
nature.
always thought we say we have sin nature. I sometimes say animal nature is what I think is animals are driven strictly by needs. We're driven by a greater good, we hope, which is God. And that's wonderful. I've not ever thought till today, what is the other difference in animals and us? So as far as what drives us.
Well, we have soul.
Does
That's a big
Satan
difference.
tempt an animal?
No,
I wouldn't think so.
no.
Because they
There's no reason to.
Yeah, so that's a huge difference is they don't have Satan to distract them, do they? And we have Satan to distract us or to put people there to distract us. And I think about, you say we're not meant to focus, and you mentioned that not long, is Adam and Eve. Well, why would they not be? Why would they be looking for better? I mean, why would they? Well, other than that Satan started working on them, I guess the day they were made. I guess. I mean, wouldn't that be true?
Yeah.
Was there ever a day that Satan wasn't in that garden, you think? I mean, I've
Not
never
since
really.
the day he made the everything.
Yeah, so day one, Satan started trying to distract them, I think, and eventually got there, didn't he? But I think all that is true with everything. This is about building a wall, and that was the most important thing to Nehemiah. Well, we've done lots of stuff. We have our relationship with God. We have our marriages. We have raising our kids. We have our business, whatever. And the one fact I can say on all of that is on everything I've done, there are great times and there are not so great times. And then I can get focused again and they become great again. And it's just wax and wane. And how do you stay focused, I think, would be the question that Nehemiah is going to deal with here. And how do you know what you should do? How do you know what's distracting and what is positive criticism? Because that's the other thing on whatever we do. We also want to get better every day, don't we? So how do you know what is negative criticism? What is positive criticism? What's trying to distract you and what's trying to build you up? And that's what we're going to talk about. And it's kind of hard to know to me, but anyway, so this is be faithful in adversity, Nehemiah 6, 1 through 19. So basically this is after Nehemiah's already come and he's got everything going. We studied to build the wall, starts building it. The people, even the other people around, actually send word that they're going to attack him. So what's he do? He makes half the people guards and half the people builders. He has all the builders stay there at night and sleep there at night. When they work, they always have their swords and their weapons, and he's done pretty well with that. And so they kind of gave up the direct attack approach to doing. And isn't that always the first thing, whatever you're trying to do, and someone's trying to distract you, whether it's Satan or whatever, the first thing usually is, it's going to be easy. I can just threaten them and I'll scare them off of that, isn't it? You think so? I mean, from the start on anything, it's, oh, yeah, don't do that. That's going to do nothing but cause you trouble, cause you to fail, cause you to do whatever. Just direct, scare you out of it. And I would say, to me, generally, if you talk to someone and someone comes and gives you wants to talk to you about something that's important to them, and for whatever reason, we tend to want to try to talk them out of that thing, not into it, whatever. And so what's the first thing we do? Well, we try to scare them about the consequences of whatever they're going to do. Let's tell them all the terrible consequences that might come about.
All the reasons that it won't work.
All the reasons it won't work. Let's don't even let them get started there. Well, Nehemiah's already through all that simple stuff. Okay, so they've tried to not let him have his stuff. That didn't work. They tried to say, well, we're going to come with warriors and attack you. That didn't work. So now we're into the further of how we distract and how we get to it. So I'm just going to start reading, and this reading is tough. So anyway, the first part is called When Falsely Accused, and I'm not going to read it all at once, but when, and this is 1 through 9. When Sanballat, Tobiah, Geshem, the Arab and the rest of our enemies heard that I had rebuilt the wall and that no gap was left in it, though at that time I had not installed the doors in the gates, Sanballat and Geshem sent me a message. Come, let's meet together in the villages of the Ono Valley. But they were planning to harm me. So my question, he knew here, this is a trick. That's not what they want to know. But how do we know it's a trick? Well, for him, it's because it was in the Ono Valley.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah, this was, oh no. Well, if you look at the geography of this,
there you have
you think that was it?
That's the clue right there.
So they should have used Java or something,
That's right.
which was close enough. But if you look at
Happy
the
Valley.
geography, and Sanballat was the governor of Samaria. So let's say, for my purpose of my discussion here, let's say that's Missouri. Well, Tobias was governor of Transjordan, so that's Tennessee, Mississippi. Nehemiah's sitting here in Benton, Arkansas, building a wall. Geshem is in charge of spice trade and all this stuff down in Texas, Louisiana, and everything. And they decide that, oh, why don't you go meet us in Tulsa? Well, that's not close to anything. It's on the sea, as this was on the Mediterranean Sea. So it's like, well, let's go to the beach. But it's not anywhere even close. So I think even the naive person should be able to figure out that, now, wait a minute, why would all of these leaders want to go hundreds of miles away from where they are to meet me in a place over here? It can't be for any good particular reason. I mean, he just knew. I mean, if I'm busy, why? It's going to take me, how many days would it take him to travel 80 or 100 miles or however far this was? This was quite a ways away. And so why? I mean,
so why?
Why would they want to do that? Why in that particular place would they want to meet?
Bushwhack.
And now Nehemiah was pretty suspicious already because all they've done. Should we be suspicious that that something is going to try to draw us off our focus?
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, it's got to be kind of deliberate. Is that what you're saying? It's deliberate, because this was deliberate.
Theirs was, but I mean, just in general, Nehemiah.
Well, especially if they had a track record of already being kind of treacherous.
We have to be cautious.
Yeah.
I think we
We
have
weigh
to know,
everything.
and maybe it's that conditioning. We have to know whatever we're doing that is good. If you put in Paul's good and kind, anything we're doing in that regard, who doesn't like that? Satan
For
does
sure.
not like that, does he? So we got to be suspicious. Something is going to come draw us off that.
I think that's proven in scripture when he tells us to put on our armor every day.
Mhm.
I mean, that's
Every day, doesn't it?
Exactly.
And,
You know, that-
and,
Right.
proves right there that
Uh-huh.
we're going to have to be on the defense.
Mhm.
and so
Well, and that's every piece of armor too. If
Yeah.
you get
All
lazy
armor.
and only put on some of it, then guess where he's going to attack you?
So is it okay to use the old saying, where there's smoke, there's fire? Do you believe that? Because that's what it sounds like.
I think as far as watching, yes, I believe it. I think that's what we're going to talk about is how you don't become distracted by trying not to become distracted. I think that's at least my weakness and is I try not to become distracted. And that's saying, I'm distracted by trying not to become distracted. I mean, so I think that's what we're going to kind of talk about, I think. But yeah, so anyway, so that's it. And then I'm going to read 3 and 4. So I sent messengers to them saying, I am doing a great work and cannot come down. Why should the work cease while I leave it and go down to you? 4 times they sent me the same proposal and I gave them the same reply. So 4 times. And I just asked, so how do we not become distracted or redirected?
I think I would have been distracted after he kept sending it 4 times.
And
Even that in itself would have been enough to go, man, again, I have to respond to this again. I'd already told him 3 times. Why am I having to do it a 4th time? And then that's where I'd get distracted. Is the first time, okay, even the 2nd time, but then the 3rd time, and by the 4th time,
Well, it forces you now to take an action.
And some people are real persistent. They
well,
feel
in
like
this
if I'm
case, he
persistent,
took the
you'll
high
change
road.
your
He
mind.
didn't say anything negative to him. He just said, no, I'm too busy. I've got something more important here than for me to go and do that. He didn't accuse him of anything. It didn't sound like he was particularly mad about it. He's just stating a fact. Well, they kept pressing, but
So he never lost focus on what his goal was, did he? His goal was not to defend himself against Sanballat and that bunch. His goal was not to cleanse his name. His goal wasn't any of that stuff, was it? What was his goal?
build that wall.
To build a wall, wasn't it? And so how do you not become distracted? And somewhere it said, and this is one of my favorite, you keep the main thing the main thing. If you can realize what the main thing is and keep it the main thing, you're not going to go off on somewhere else, because that's what we're going to see. What they've tried to do is take his focus off the wall and put it where? They want to take his focus off the wall and defending Jerusalem. And where do they want to put his focus?
Well, defending himself.
There you have it.
Yeah.
So how do we do when someone won't bend and won't be distracted when we want them to? What's the common approach to that? Attack them, isn't it? Say something ugly about them. Kill them. Whatever it is, but it is okay. Let's take the focus off what they're working on, and let's make it a direct personal attack, and surely that will redirect them, because that's what we want to do, isn't it? That's all Sanballat and them wanted to do, was they want to take his mind off the wall and put it somewhere else. Now, they were pretty ruthless, so at least what we can see, they would have been fine to just take his head off completely, and that would have took his mind off of it. Don't know why they didn't do that, except for God didn't allow it to happen. But anyway, so it is, how do we not become distracted? And Steve kind of said it all, but it's to not become distracted, isn't it? I mean, you've got to keep focused. You've got to say, what am I doing? In this case, Nehemiah somehow knew he was doing God's work, didn't he? And boy, doesn't that make such a big difference if you know you're doing God's work.
You know, the way that he got to Jerusalem, you know, being the cupbearer of the king and the miracles that God performed, just getting him there with all the help he got and with the letters that he had. So,
Yep.
so he knew that he was
He
doing
did.
God's will.
And he stuck with it. So now it is 5 through 7. Sanballat sent me the same message a 5th time by his aide. So it wasn't enough the 4 times. He sent it a 5th time, who had an open letter in his hand. What that meant is they read it at the courthouse or whatever. So, the letter was public for everyone to hear. In it was written, it is reported among the nations, and Geshem agrees that you and the Jews plan to rebel. This is the reason you are building the wall. According to these reports, you are to become their king, and have even set up the prophets in Jerusalem to proclaim on your behalf. There is a king in Judah. These rumors will be heard by this king, so come, let's confer together. I'm going to go ahead and read 8 and 9. Then I replied to him, there is nothing to these rumors you are spreading. You are inventing them in your own mind, for they were all trying to intimidate us, saying, they will become discouraged in the work, and it will never be finished. But now, my God, strengthen me. So when the false accusations, the innuendos, whatever come, and they will come. I just say, wherever you're at, when you're focused and trying to do good, and someone wants something other than what you want, that's going to come. is going to come. How do you deal with that?
Steady the course. I mean,
Stay the course.
Sometimes you have to confront them. Sometimes you can just do what you know to do. You don't ignore them.
Right.
At the end, he just said, "But now my God strengthens me," because he heard the slanderous.
Yeah.
Isn't
this where we get? Isn't this where we're supposed to grab that eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth thing, and throw some of them back at? Throw a little bit back at them.
That's our first thought. Yeah.
That's what messes up our focus. We get to thinking all of these things we can do to them.
Well, he did sort of throw it back at him. He called him a liar, basically. He said, you're basically you're lying. You made it up in your head. He didn't actually say you are lying. He still kind of skirted around that and said, well, you're making all that up. But that's like seeing our name in the paper that we did something that is totally untrue. Well, it's out there. And so there's going to be a handful of people, or a majority sometimes, that were willing to believe it, whether it's true or not. And so you can say that's not true, but that's not generally enough. And I think that's where he said, Lord, okay, I need some help here, because there's going to be some opposition. Plus, I basically called my enemies a liar. In the old Western days, if you called them a liar, they just pulled a gun out and shot you. So, that was kind of bold in itself. It's like, well, it's not true. But then he's got to have strength to endure what comes next. And it doesn't really tell you. But you got to know that he's thinking about, well, what about if so-and-so, or what if the local priest and everybody down the street thinks that all this is really true, even though he knows it's not.
Again, that goes back to the first thing. So what they said primarily is, if you respond in kind, what becomes the issue then?
Well, then it's just mudslinging between me and you.
It is.
You lose the focus of what
So we lose focus of what we had. So if we respond in kind, then we don't really stay the course, do we? I mean, all of a sudden, it is, the course is now, can I make them look worse than they've made me look? That's what becomes the course, is, can I make them look worse than, and so it is, and I think for me, but now my God strengthened me, because I know I've get in those situations, and boy, do I want to join in the fun. I mean, boy, they've insulted me, and I mean, I will say, for those who know me, I can, as Dad would say, I'm very singular of mind, and if I choose to be ugly, I can probably be pretty ugly, and so when someone does that to me, boy, is it so hard not to load them both up and just fire off, but again, what happens then you've lost focus on what you were trying to accomplish to begin with, and often it is stubbornness. It is trying to get something other people don't want. Okay, so you look at what Nehemiah's done here. His focus is to build that wall. Well, it is against the wishes of almost everyone around there. And the Christian thing to do would have been just not to ruffle those feathers and not even go there, right?
We do a lot of that now.
And so that's the problem. If God puts us up to something that is supposed to ruffle feathers, maybe, how do you do that and still stay true to who you're supposed to be and true to God?
With lots of prayer.
Get back on your knees on
There you have it, because that isn't that, I mean, you look at where Nehemiah's at here. Okay, go build a wall amongst all these people. And by the way, they're not going to want you to build that wall, and they're going to do everything, and they're going to attack you personally. And I just want you to build the wall, okay? And while you're doing it, make sure they know that you're really just supporting me as your God, and not just going on your own thing, that you're not trying to become king. You're not. So, but you can't tell anyone that. So how do you do that? And it is exactly what Nehemiah does, exactly what Janet said. You have to pray and pray and pray and pray. And when God nudges you go that way, I guess is all I know to say. I mean, does anyone have that's the harsh thing to me. How do you know you're doing the right thing? How do you know you're?
I don't know what you ever do. I think God's will is always after the fact. I don't really know. I can have a feeling.
You can feel the spirit within you telling you, that gives you peace.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes I've had that peace and felt the spirit, and I got blocked when I went at it. So, it's my interpretation of what God's will is for me. And I guess that's all we have. Accept that spirit.
Yeah.
And then that's up to interpretation.
And,
I wish it weren't, but it is with me.
And sometimes when we really feel peace, and then something comes up, to counteract it, sometimes all you can do is just sit back and just take a second breath and see what's really happening.
I think the thing, and the something I have to think about, God doesn't necessarily promise us peace all the time,
That's right.
does he? And so when unpeace comes, you have to decide, where's this from? And how do you decide, or do you really have to decide?
You have to.
Sometimes the best action is no action.
Yeah.
True.
My thought, though, I will say, I wouldn't say I'm all that good at doing it, of trying to do it. You stay true to yourself. You stay true to who God wants you to be. And if you can walk in God's way, you're going to eventually go down the right path. And so to me, that's the thing. And I think that's what we see Nehemiah. But as Steve pointed out, he probably stumbled a little bit, didn't he? He probably stumbled a little bit when he started to say, hey, now wait a minute, you're a liar. From being who he was supposed to be, didn't he? Because all of a sudden he's going to start throwing those stones back. But that's the thing to me, where I don't know what path to take, but I do know what pace God wants me walking, and I do know the rules that he's given, the rules of engagement God has given me. So if I can keep walking that path, I just figure sooner or later I'm going to come out. And so, and I think back my illustrations. I remember one time I went hunting in the Saline River bottoms by myself, and I hunted too long, and I had followed this creek or slough, and I thought, well, it's going to be easy to get back, and well, it was late. Well, I decided, I made a big horseshoe. If I just cut right across this creek, then I will walk to where it horseshoed around, come out, cross again. I'll be right at the truck. Well, when I got to the truck, guess what? Any guesses?
It was the next morning.
It wasn't there.
Somebody stole it.
So what do you think I did?
You took the wrong turn.
Well,
The bad angle.
and to get back, what do you think I did?
Did the same thing you did getting there. Tried to.
I went back and got on the path that I started on, and I followed that path back, and where do you think I came out at? At the truck, didn't I? what happened in the meantime? Well, there was another creek in between me and the creek I wanted to get to
That's Satan.
that I didn't know, and so I got lost.
No, it's just a creek.
But I did know how to get back to where I wanted to go, didn't I? Now it was a long way and it was almost dark, and guess what? Anyone ever done this? Boy, did I have to run back to God's path. Anyone ever done that? Huh?
I have been in the woods squirreling with my husband. This is when we lived up in Plainview, and I talked there, and he was at Ola. And he said, well, he had talked to one of the men in town, and why don't we go squirrel hunting after school? And I said, okay. He had given me a 22 for my birthday, and I had not been out with it yet, so we went. And he decides that we need to go this way, and he knows this place this man told him about. Now, we've never been here. I said, okay. So he spotted this squirrel up in this tree, and he said, now I want you to kill it. Well, the squirrel ran around to the other side of the tree. He said, well, I'll go around there and run it back towards you. And by then, you're talking about it getting late, and the sun had gone down, which the sun was not down when we went into the woods. And I said, okay, I don't see a squirrel. Well, wait just a minute. And he goes back around the tree, and I'm still standing there. And by then, there is no squirrel. It hopped over into another tree. And he said, well, I think that we'll just sit down here and spend the night. I said, no, we are not sitting there. I said, well, it's okay, but we're getting out of this place. So I fired my gun, and somebody else fired one way off somewhere else, and we started walking. And we got to these men, and they're out there just laughing because they're from Plainview, and they knew me and how dense I was about going into the woods. And we got to the truck. They showed us where it was. It was 5 miles from where we started out. And I said, now, do not ask me to go back squirrel hunting up here. Take me fishing at them Lake Nimrod. I'll go anytime you want to. No more
I
squirrel.
don't blame you. I wouldn't either.
And you had, though, just what we say, you had an idea of what it might take to get you back where it was, didn't you? And so that, and
I
that
could have spent the night in the woods, and the Lord would have taken care of me.
Yeah.
But every time I looked around, I'd see a snake or a spider or something like that.
So you'd feel it anyway.
I would think it was there.
So you gave up squirrel hunting.
So I think that's what it says. So before we've done stuff, we've learned and we know the right path. And if you find yourself off the path, go back to the path. and I say if. Let's clarify that. When you find yourself off the path, go get back on it and say, yeah, I should not have took that shortcut. I think I'll get back on it because that's what we do. And not for you women, this is easy. For the men, not so much. Don't be afraid to admit you got lost. You know, don't be afraid to admit you got lost.
Is
Just
that like stopping and asking for directions kind of thing?
Yeah,
Well, I
that
hear
you don't
that.
like to do.
I'm always kind of like the Indian. When they accused him of being lost, he said, Indian not lost, TP lost.
yeah.
So my TP gets lost.
So the next part is when promised false security. This is 10 through 14. I went to the house of Shemaiah of Deliah, son of Mehetabel, who was restricted to his house. He said, let us meet at the house of God inside the temple. Let us shut the temple doors because they are coming to kill you. They're coming to kill you tonight. But I said, should a man like me run away? How can I enter the temple and live? I will not go. I realized God had not sent him because of the prophecy he spoke against me. Tobiah and Sanballat had hired him. He was hired so that I would be intimidated, do as he suggested, sin, and get a bad reputation in order that they could discredit me. My God, remember Tobiah and Sanballat for what they have done, and also Noadiah, the prophetess, and the other prophets who wanted to intimidate me.
This wall was a big deal, I guess.
I guess it was, huh?
Like, I was trying to picture in my mind why the big deal with the wall.
Yeah.
Why was he building it? What was he
I don't know, you know?
Yeah.
Steve, you ought to.
The people that were in it,
Yeah.
Yeah, but-
the remnant was there, plus, I mean, the people that had gone there with Ezra, which we talked about, you know, a couple of weeks ago, and they were there. Plus, that's their home.
Yeah,
Jerusalem is the place where God promised he would dwell if they were there. And so that's a big deal to the Jews, to the Israelites here. And right now it's all torn down. So there's no threat to anybody on the outside. The Samaritans or the whoever, all the different tribes that were all around there, there's no threat to it. Once they start building a wall, all of a sudden they can no longer come and go as they want to. And building the wall back puts Jerusalem back to the way it was as a power. And so I think they saw it, all of them saw it as a threat. I know some of the stuff I read, the three guys all saw it was politically motivated because they all had their own little spots. And all of a sudden, here's another one. And they all, I think somewhere in their thinking, knew that God blessed these people. And if that wall gets rebuilt and he gets back in there, then they're going to be the ones that have all the power in this area. And all of a sudden, they don't have anything anymore. So nobody wanted it other than the few people that needed it for the protection that were inside the city already. Everybody else saw it as a threat to their little domain that they already had established.
So, so the threat here was, you're going to get killed tonight. Come on and hide out in the temple. And if you don't know, where you're sure to die if you go into, according to the law that Nehemiah knows. So basically, anyway, what I said, we've got to stay strong in our convictions, even in the threat of great loss, or in this case, death. And so his conviction was, how can I live if I go in there? That was his conviction. How can I live if I go into the Holy of Holies to hide? Well, I'm going to die. If I'm out here, I'm going to die. Might as well die on the side of my convictions, hadn't I? And I think that's what we have to remember. We're in that kind of fight all the time, aren't we? Can I die to Christ? And I think the answer is yes and no. Sure I can. I can do the thing that hurts Christ that I have to be forgiven for. Thank goodness Christ is there to bring me back to life. Does that make that any less a sin?
Sin's there.
Yeah. No, it doesn't make it any less a sin, except in God's eyes, somehow it changes that. But so you've got to know what your convictions are and be ready to stick with them. And then you look, how did he know this was not really true? How did he know what was God's path in this regard? And we just talked about it kind of.
Well, one, because he asked him to go into the temple, which he knew that was against God's law.
Right.
The other, it doesn't really say how long this guy, did he just all of a sudden fabricate this and go hide himself? It sounds like he said he kind of hid out for a couple of days to give the illusion that my life's in danger too. Come with me. Let's go hide out in the temple, and then they won't get you. The other thing I read somewhere in there is that this guy was a friend of Tobiah. And so that in itself, if this guy is trying to get me to do something that I know is against God's law, and he's also a friend of the guy that's been harassing me for the whole time here, then why should I believe him?
And what I'd say is that's exactly it. Instead of his emotions, instead of his fears, what did he use to guide him? God's word. That's what he used to guide him. And that's what we have to say is he had God's word, thank goodness, so that he knew, wait a minute, that is against God's word, isn't it? Well, we know that. And so you have to say, who has honest intentions? Well, number one, they are not going to be directly contradictory to God's word, are they? They are not going to be. And so, and then again, what's the second thing he did? He prayed. So he said, wait a minute, that can't be part of God's word because part of God. But then as soon as he does that, and that's what I like Nehemiah here, because he does more what I do. He thinks it out first, doesn't he? And then he prays. See, that's what I like is yeah, you try to do it yourself, and then when you can't, let's give it a little prayer action. So,
Isn't that the American way?
yeah,
Human way, I guess.
The human
Yeah.
way.
Well, his prayer wasn't particularly favorable, I'll say, toward,
No.
but it's like, Lord, remember these guys, what they've been doing to me. And if possible, can I be there when you smote them? I mean,
it is. Now, this is what I say to that, though, still, and it's, boy, it's close, and you don't know. His response to them is within himself and to God. So his response is not directed directly at them, meaning he's going to go try to trick them to do something. Now, granted, the prayer, the state of his heart is probably not what we would think a good Christian would have, but so like I say, smite is one of my favorite words too. So smite the infidels would be. but anyway, that is tough. But he did pray. But again, I think you can see Nehemiah is pretty down to earth for what we do, because he does think it through, and he's right on the edge every time, isn't he, Steve? We don't think of that. I bet we've read this thing 100 times, and we don't really think how close to the edge and how close to us Nehemiah is. That he's right on the edge of that ice, fixing to fall off,
but he
fixing to fall
realizes it,
through,
and he turns around
and he realizes
and he turns to God and says, Lord, I need
yes,
you.
and so pretty cool. Anyway, then the next is when factions arise, and this is 15 through 19. The wall was completed. This is amazing to me. The wall was completed in 52 days. So all this stuff, wouldn't you have thought it was more than a 52-day?
Well, how big is the thing? I'm thinking of a pretty good sized fort instead of a whole.
It's pretty large. I should have brought. I'll bring it. I've got a map of it. And this that they built, actually, it was a little bit smaller than the original wall. They kind of moved inside, and they built it where it was easiest, because some of it was just rubble and it was hard to get. So they'd go inside when they had to. So this is actually slightly smaller than the original one, but it's still a pretty good size.
So the wall was completed in 52 days on the 25th day of the month of Elul. When all our enemies heard this, all the surrounding nations were intimidated and lost their confidence, for they realized that this task had been accomplished by our God. During those days, the nobles of Judah sent many letters to Tobiah, and Tobiah's letters came to them. For many in Judah were bound by oath to him, since he was a son-in-law of Shechaniah, son of Era, and his son Jehohanan had married the daughter of Meshusha, son of Berechiah. These nobles kept mentioning Tobiah's good deeds to me, and they reported my words to him. And Tobiah sent letters to intimidate me. So my first part, where this task had been accomplished by our God. I just asked, does God accomplish tasks today? And if so, tell me one.
I'm sitting here live.
I think this class is an example, even though I don't think it's finished, but I certainly believe that God wanted this class to happen, and it is occurring, and I'll see that. I think it doesn't have to be personal. It's just something that God built in First Baptist Church.
Is God accomplishing large tasks today? Are we've got all this big fight in the world, so to say, are we as is he accomplishing wanting to, and we as Christians are kind of backing off, afraid? I mean,
I like to look at the when I like to think I see God in action is watching the latest news stories concerning Israel. I always like to follow that for some reason. It seems like when you follow, Israel in current events, I like to believe that God has hands in the middle of that, and they do things that are quite unorthodox.
I think, yeah, obviously God just does do tasks. I think one of the things we as Christians are having a hard time with is we're conforming to the likeness of Jesus Christ. And we have such a hard time being loved that we're afraid to do the sterner parts that Jesus Christ also did. We're afraid to go into the temple and throw the chairs and do all that stuff because that wouldn't be Christ-like, would it?
It actually would be Christ.
Well, but
That's what he did.
But don't you feel that we're afraid? We're called hypocrites when we do that, and we don't. So it's like we're afraid to stand up to say, okay, I'm a Christian and God is going to smite you. It's like we are afraid we're going to show something that is not, that someone would say, oh, so that's love? But that is love, though.
Yeah.
And so I think we are limiting God because we have let the sandalots throw us off our task of showing people who Christ really is.
But at the same time, what we're saying, I think that maybe we are too docile and quiet and reserved more than we should be. But at the same time, Nehemiah here, was he about to cross the line and where he maybe should have been reserved?
Mm-hmm.
You see, there's our problem.
And it's a huge problem. I mean, because I guarantee you, had I done what Jesus Christ did in that temple, I would have quickly become unchristlike. Okay, so I would have quickly, become Christ-like while he's able to do it, and so that's the problem. Is I don't know how you do it. I just say I think we have to be bold in Christ when it's necessary, and that stuff. The last part, and I know it's hard. The last thing I said. So he wins, and the wall gets accomplished, and what happens?
I didn't understand all that drama.
It continues, doesn't it? So
It keeps going.
yeah. So I note that even after we win, the effort to defeat us will not stop. Why?
Keeps toughening us up.
Satan's still out there
It's
right.
still in the world.
trying
Yeah.
to destroy it.
And I think it's got to be both. I think you've got Satan trying to destroy us, and you've got God conforming us. And boy, between the two, this is a tough body to live in. I'm telling you. I don't know. I do know. So what's the tougher? What is the tougher proposal? For me to be conformed to Christ, or for me to deny Satan? And I'm going to say it's for me to be conformed to Christ.
Yeah, because as you deny Satan,
Yeah, because how can I be conformed to Christ of myself? I cannot. Can I deny Satan of myself?
Yes.
Yes. Isn't that scary? So if you look at the toughest powers at work on us, what are they? It is God conforming us. Because he says you can't get there from here. And that's the hardest when I talk to people in the office and they come in with all these sad things and they really want me to say, boy, life's tough and Satan's ate you up. And I tell them, yeah, God did that to you. Oh, wait. Yeah. But that's the tough thing is to realize that we are being conformed. And that's the scary thing still is God doesn't say we can be conformed. God doesn't say we are in. God just says, once you take me into your heart, you will be conformed into the likeness of Jesus Christ. And so anyway, I think this is a good lesson just to say, get your convictions. Know they're from God. Stay focused on your convictions. And remember, it's not just one thing because you've also got to stay focused on being Christ-like and being who you want to be and walking the right path. And that's the hardest thing to do is, I deal with algorithms a lot in work. And the hard thing on algorithms is you're working in an algorithm and you see you need to skip here. Well, you can skip there. The problem is now you're running two algorithms because you got one running from here around and you got another one that's still got, and then you see another place you need to skip. Well, now you've got three algorithms running. And that's what we got to remember as Christians is we stay focused on one thing. We can't lose focus on the other thing. And it's not okay to lose focus on who we're supposed to be to accomplish a task that we need to get done for God. I can justify all things through God. Isn't that what it says? That's not it.
That's funny.
No.
You tried to get us.
Not it.
That's why I didn't bring it.